All right, good evening, everybody. We're glad to have you with us this night. My lips are not working right, which that's pretty normal for me. But we're excited to have everybody with us and looking forward to another one of our video classes that we're going to be looking at tonight. It's a part of the Appian Media. If you go to their website, I highly recommend them again. Go look at their stuff. They got some fantastic media resources, tools. We've been studying 1st and 2nd Samuel. We're kind of like in the middle before we move over and start into the Kings. So we found these videos that I think are really dynamic and wonderful in helping to bring together archaeology, the geology, the geography, and bringing it all together to all those scriptures that we had been looking at. I can't see our text, our messages. I don't know what's going on, so I'm sorry. But I did see Chelsea. So hi, Chelsea. Something going on where I can't read them, but I can see them as they pop up. But once they're gone, I don't see them. So I'm not ignoring you if I don't see it. So I will not be here next Wednesday or the next Wednesday. So I've already pre-recorded, and it's already scheduled, and it's on YouTube, ready to play next Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. And it's just the video, and it's a good one, too. I enjoyed it. I almost got them confused on, which one do we do tonight? Which one? Because I was watching and we got into both of them. So next week we'll have the other video. I just have a quick little opening up, and it's all pre-recorded. It's already done, so it's scheduled. I have to work on getting the other one done so that then that one will be ready. This way we don't miss Wednesday evening. You'll be able to enjoy it whether I'm here or not. So we got all this technology. Might as well kind of use it. So we're going to jump into this. This is kind of a shorter video, but it's. I think this is a very meaningful one because it's now looking about how David has progressed. You know, he's gone historically from David and Goliath, David living with Saul, and then on the run, and they've moved around the area geographically and looked at some of the ruins. And now we're coming to after David has become a king for the tribe of Judah, and now he's going to then need a place to rule from. And so now we're going to look at the city of Jerusalem. So they're going to cover some great things. I mean, some cool stuff that I hadn't seen, some of these images and some of these archaeological sites. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll get started on that now. Let's go.
After ruling for 7 years in Hebron, David decided to move his capital to the city of Jerusalem. The problem was that the Jebusites were here, and so he needed a way to enter the city and capture it. He issued a challenge to his men, and he challenged them to go up the water shaft. The word in Hebrew is sinor. Sometimes it's translated as pipe, because he knew that would be an entrance into the city, and if they could get someone in there, they maybe have a chance of capturing the city. Joab volunteered for that and was able to successfully get in. For a long time, we didn't understand exactly what that meant in the Bible. But in 1867, a British explorer by the name of Charles Warren came to this land looking for different biblical archaeological sites. And he found this shaft. And he actually climbed up this shaft and discovered this whole tunnel system under here. And he proposed that this was probably the way that the citizens of the Jebusite city came to retrieve their water. And so he proposed that this is the pipe, the water shaft, the sinor that is mentioned in Scripture.
How do we know that this could be that shaft?
This may not have been the exact way that the people retrieved their water at the time, but this is the way Charles Warren came up. There are one or two other shafts in this area that Joab could have come up. But it would have been something very similar to this that would have given him access inside the city.
So it still fits the story, whether it was this shaft or another shaft. There was something just like this that Joab would have come up to help capture the Jebusite city.
That's right.
Why would David ask Joab or one of his men to come up a water shaft in order to help capture a city?
Well, the city of Jerusalem, the ancient Jebusite city, sat on a little peninsula of land that was surrounded by the Kidron, Hinnom, and Central valleys. So it was very defensible. It was very hard to attack the city. I think that's one of the reasons why David wanted the city. There was going to have to be something secret to happen. And as you can see, it wouldn't be very easy to get here. Only one man could come up here. You couldn't pull a whole army. And so probably Joab came up a shaft like this, then was able to open the door and allow the army in.
So it was a very defensible position. Some people have described this spot as the true foundation for the nation of Israel and for the city of Jerusalem itself. You know, most people look at the Temple Mount and they think, that's Jerusalem. Well, it became that, especially during the days of King Herod. But when you come back to the United Kingdom, Saul did a little bit, but David really coalesced the nation around him. It's incredible. It sends chills down your spine to think about. This marks the beginning of that.
And it all started with Joab coming up a shaft like this and capturing the city.
I don't think you can overstate the importance of going down to war in Shaft, or even the discovery of it. There are so many battles and so many cities that are conquered in Canaan by the Israelites. But to have one that's so uniquely conquered, where you climb up through a water shaft, you know, archaeology plays such an important role in helping us understand how legitimate the biblical text is and how accurate the biblical text is. In this spot, from the Gihon Spring, there was water that the city accessed through these tunnels. To have that detail and then to have a place like that found that fits the description was just invaluable. Going underground and exploring the shaft that Warren found and thinking about Joab going up and helping David conquer the city. I think about going back to our conversation with Scott and thinking about the development of weaponry. In 1 Samuel, the text specifies that the Philistines kept the Israelites from working with metals, that there was no blacksmith in Israel. And if they even wanted to sharpen their farm implements, they had to go to the Philistines to get that done. That makes sense with the rest of what we read in 1 Samuel, where it really emphasizes the weapons that Goliath uses, or the shortage of weaponry. At one point, only Saul and Jonathan are the ones with weapons. You can see the development of arrow tips, spearheads, things that are coming out of that layer of archaeology. Scott put forward the possibility that during David's time where he was hiding out with the Philistines, he actually figured out or discovered that technology and brought it with him. And you start to see that become more prolific during the time of the United Kingdom. Is there extra biblical evidence for the existence of David and his kingdom? Evidence outside of the biblical text?
Well, honestly, there's not a lot. However, in 1993 and 94, a couple of archaeologists who were digging up at Tel Dan found 3 pieces of stone that when they put it together, it seems to have been written by King Hazael from Aram. And he's describing a battle in which he has defeated the kings of Israel and Judah. However, he doesn't refer to Judah as Judah. He refers to it as the house of David.
Now, when do they date this?
About 150 to 200 years after King David lived.
So the value of this is that there's a foreign king who has defeated the southern kingdom of Judah centuries after David actually lived, but he still refers to the kingdom as the house of David. That would be evidence that David was more than just a city leader or a tribal leader, that he had authority over a much larger area.
From his vantage point, he sees the whole kingdom of Judah as being David's family.
And he has no reason to try to substantiate whether David existed or not.
Right.
He's just stating what he knows to be true.
That's exactly right.
That kingdom was referred to by the house of David.
I think it'd be beneficial for us to return to the city of David. Just within the last couple of decades, they've done some great archaeological work there, and they think they've uncovered part of King David's palace.
the current modern Jerusalem just sprawls all over these hills, across these valleys. Most people, when they enter the city, they have this picture of this bird's eye view from the Mount of Olives looking down, and you see the Temple Mount. But that wasn't there with the city of David. You're talking less than 3,000 people. And so really with the city of David, you have this seed of Israel starting as a nation and growing out from its capital.
We are in the city of David, the true location of the ancient biblical Jerusalem. And you can see around us the tourists coming, just exploring again this amazing
Active place. It's a very active place.
We are standing in the palace area. Up till 150 years ago, we didn't know where the city was. Everybody thought that the ancient biblical Jerusalem lies within the confines of the old city. It's only when Charles Warren, by accident, came and he discovered the place that he realized, but listen, this is the actual location of the ancient city.
Archaeologically, how do you establish that this was the palace? How do we know that?
We cannot say 100% that this is the palace.
Right.
This is how archaeology works.
Right.
Unless you find something that is written, David was here,
Right.
you cannot say that.
Right.
Elat Mazar, she came and she said to us, guys, I think that this is the location of the palace of King David, and we need to dig down. And we said to her, but we did dig down. She said, you didn't dig deep enough. And we said to her, okay, we are willing to go, but you have to tell us why. And she said to us, 60 years ago, a woman named Kathleen Kenyon found a capital broken into in a landslide, and that capital, it's a Phoenician style. And Phoenicia is the modern day Lebanon. It dates back 3,000 years. And when I opened my Bible, she said, I read about a king, Hiram of Tyre, and he came and he helped David to build his house, Solomon to build his house, and to ultimately to build the house of God. The second thing is we found houses built into the walls of the ancient city dating back to the first temple period. And that means that we are very close to some kind of citadel here. Within those houses we found furniture, and that furniture dates back 3,000 years. The third reason is the city itself lies between two valleys. We have the Kidron Valley, you guys can see it on that side, and at the back of me another. Between these valleys we have the city situated. Very difficult to take the city. So difficult that the Jebusite king said, not going to happen. Elat Mazar, she said, on the north side, it is level. It means that you're going to have to put something here to keep the city safe.
Yeah. She came with her Bible in hand and kept reading it and referring to it and looking for reference points and kept finding those reference points as she dug.
I think that's very important. If you want to find the Bible and what's written in the Bible, you have to go to the
That's
Bible,
right? Well, I'm very grateful for her approach.
So are we.
Very grateful.
What's going on currently around this site?
Full-time excavations going on all the time. We started the project with the name Jerusalem Watch, and through that people can actually support the excavations here. You can become part of getting the buckets on the ground so that we can absolutely expose the complete blueprint of the city to the world. So we have a big building, right? How do we say that it's the palace? In 2005, we found a very important seal. 3 years later, we also found another seal. And these two seals are very, very important. Two seals that appears in the same book in the Bible, Jeremiah, in the same chapter, in the same verse, back to each other. Gedaliah ben Pashur, Yuchal ben Shelemiah. Written in the Bible, written on the seals. So that tells us that we are in the governmental area of that time. The time of King David dates back 3,000 years. The time of these guys, 2,800 years. And we know that in that time, this was the governmental seat of the city itself.
How does it make you feel to stand in a place like this where such an important point in Israel's history happens?
This city brings the Bible to life 360 degrees. The city of David, Jerusalem itself, leads in the fact that there is unequivocal proof that there is a connection to the Bible. In front of us we can see a wall. It's this wall that led us to find the place here. And we can get a better vantage point of the palace area if we go to that side.
When you see the size of the walls, you can imagine how difficult that must have been for people to try to come and capture the city. And you understand why David would have sent Joab up through the water shaft to get inside.
Correct. If you go down, this even go down more to the Kidron Valley over there, and that's why the city was so difficult to take.
The city of David is such a great location strategically. You have the military fortifications. He's up high, he's surrounded by mountains. And when you talk about Iron Age cities, they're developing the fortifications, they're developing the fortified cities. You're getting more cities with walls. They're becoming less and less nomadic as a people.
You can see a house built into the wall itself. These houses that we found date back to the First Temple period. This house belonged to Achiel. We know that because it was written in pottery that we found. This man, Achiel, was a very important person in the government as well. Firstly, his house is very close to the palace. Secondly, you can see his garage where he parked his donkeys. You can see two pillars over there with holes inside the pillars, and that's where he fastened the donkeys. But more than that, we found an ancient toilet. And for people like me in those days, you had to run a little bit further than your house to do certain things. Achiel had
He had the luxury.
He had the luxury of that inside his house. Seeing houses built into the wall itself, we are reminded of the story of David and Bathsheba, when it says when the time comes when kings go out and fight, the men has to be out of the city, they have to go and fight, and the women come outside. Bathsheba was taking a bath, and now we can see where he was standing and how this whole story played itself out.
Talking about David and Bathsheba is a hard thing to do. When you contrast David with Saul, he's just so starkly different. He's so much closer to God. He's the one described as the man after God's own heart. And then you get this incident where he chooses to take another man's wife to the point that to cover it up, he's willing to send that man into battle and have everyone step back so that he dies. So he has a valid reason to marry this widow so that he can adopt his unborn child. You know, that just seems so out of character for David. But the truth is, it highlights that he was a real man and he made mistakes. In many ways, he's more relatable. He also repented of those things. There were real-life consequences. When he was confronted, as opposed to Saul, he repents and he responds. He doesn't make excuses. He takes responsibility. He's such a model for how to respond when your sin catches you and when you're found out.
We are reminded of the story when Absalom was chasing his father, when he wanted the throne, when he wanted to rule. It says in the Bible that David had to come out with the whole party. He brought the ark out and then he sent it back. And they walked through the valley over there and he went up the Mount of Olives. If you look across from where we're standing in the village over there, in the bedrock, you can see that there are tombs. We know that that was an ancient cemetery. So, what do we put together here? David writes in Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because your rod and your staff, they will protect me. We also spoke about the hills surrounding Jerusalem. Where we're standing, you can see how the hills surround Jerusalem, and that he wrote, as the hills surround Jerusalem, so God surrounds his people.
To the people that question whether there really was a David or a Solomon, you're standing here and you're looking at where they lived, and you're looking at where the Bible says so many things took place with great specificity. It talks about the routes they took and the places they were, and it's easy to realize that's rooted in reality. What Honorina shared about what's going on at the city of David was just fascinating, but a huge part of the United Kingdom story is the temple that David stockpiled for and Solomon ended up building. Is there anything archaeologically that we can see that connects to that?
Well, digging is not allowed on the Temple Mount now. However, a number of years ago, an unfortunate event happened, but it opened up some really unique opportunities for us.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I think this was a really amazing one in showing the city. And Arinelli, or what was her name? Arinell? I think the lady who was doing, huh? Arlene. But I thought she was amazing. I just really thought she was able to express a lot about what was going on, the way that she even, like, the Bathsheba and leaving and the graves and tying the Psalms and the scripture together. That's an aspect that we can't really see. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. If you're going through an area just like she described, and there's some graves there, that would be something very somber as he was leaving Jerusalem. So I hope you really enjoyed it. It was a really amazing one. And Becky and I were just talking and thinking, how can people continually just be so stubborn about not accepting and denying God? But it really does come down to people's hearts. People, they just don't want to believe, and they're going to harden their hearts against God when He is a beautiful, forgiving, loving God. But there's also a side that says you're accountable for your actions. There's an accountability, and that's logical nature. There's accountability. There's just those things about it. Why is it so hard for us to believe? We're like little children. Well, I don't want mommy and daddy to rule over me. I don't want this superior God, to hold me accountable. But that accountability keeps us in a relationship that is our behavior where we're healthier, we're happier, we're purer. So it's just so helpful for me as a Christian living all the way so far away from the Bible lands to be able to see it and have somebody walking through and tying all this together. So just kind of a little bit of a wrap up. Again, next week I have the video that will play, and I had a good question. Becky was saying, well, how do you find it? Well, how technology is. The theory is it's already scheduled, so YouTube is supposed to just start it, and it has about a 10-minute lead-in, just like we do always. It should look just like it. If you click notify, then what it will do is it will send you a notification that they are now streaming. It's live, but it's a streaming live recording. So if you get that notification, you should be able to just go to it. And you can drop comments on there, and I hope you do. Because when I come back, then I can look at those if you have some. Next one is really great. It's longer. And they're going to start now looking at Solomon and start to bring in that transitional period and show more. So there's going to be 2 Wednesday nights. I will not be here. I think this is the next Wednesday will be the last one for In Search for the King. So I got to find something to cover for that one Wednesday I won't be here. And I know Chelsea was telling me she's already watched. I watched one of them, and it's with the Appian Media, and it's the Messiah, walking with the Messiah. And they go through the lands the same kind of way and going to Galilee and all of this. But so shoot me a note if you let me know on chat or somehow if you want me to progress with that, or I'll come up with something else that's random, something appropriate. But so let me know in the notes tonight, tomorrow. I'll be preparing it, and we'll have the podcast this Friday, but not the next Friday. So, but yeah, I got to go do some heavy lifting and moving. So, but I'm looking forward to being back. Already, I'm excited to see these videos, and I hope you are too. I hope they're useful. So please, 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 if you haven't subscribed, I sound like all the other guys I watch on YouTube, and I don't even like saying it, but they've statistically it's proven 85% of people who are watching your videos, they don't subscribe to your channel. Yeah, 85%. So that's pretty high. And I don't know, maybe if you don't like it, then you don't have to. But it does mean a difference in the algorithm and the way that we are getting our presence even known further out, and other people will be able to find us. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you have, click like, because that's another one of those little benchmark data points that they look at as YouTube little AI works. It's magic. It helps to bring us up. And I found out just also that the more comments that we have as people are commenting, that drives your videos and your channel into a higher profile. And so what happens is then YouTube will start recommending your channel to more and more and more and more. So there's a lot of that makes sense. So that's the way you can help us out. All right. Well, thank you. Yes, I will be saved. Chelsea says, be safe wherever I'm going. So, okay, that's enough of me. Enough of that. We're going to have, it's kind of a, kind of a little close, but that's all right. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will hopefully see you Friday morning at least, and then this Sunday.